Hi everyone, I wanted to come on and talk about my experience with EMDR. EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. I had the opportunity, luxury, privilege, however you want to receive that, to do EMDR during my domestic violence healing process. I didn't know much about it previous to that. I just knew that I was definitely having PTSD, which I think I was diagnosed with CPTSD, which is like complex PTSD, very like immediately after the incident. Now I'm good, you know. Um, but in the moment, I couldn't share and talk about what had happened to me without feeling like I was reliving it. So like if I was in therapy or when I was in therapy and I was talking about it, or if I was talking to my mom or the police officers, my body would have the visceral reaction as if it was still happening to me. Like my hands would start shaking, I couldn't breathe. It was just like I was getting very panicky, and it was just not safe for me and not safe for my body. And what I had started to realize was that all of the stuff was literally living in my body, in my cells, and it was made immediately clear to me. I did this somatic workshop that just happened to be at Yug Yoga in Astoria, like very shortly after the incident happened. And I was like, I need to go. I don't know what this is, this workshop, but I know that I don't want this to live in my body, because if it does, I know it's going to manifest into something. So long story short, I went to this workshop, and it's this somatic breathing technique where the practitioner or the leader, the coach, teacher leads you through it. The room's dark, your eyes are closed, and you're like almost hyperventilating in some ways. I know that that's not technically what it is, but an ignorant person, who that was myself in the moment, who didn't know, like that's kind of what it was. And it was profound and so deep and insane, like what I felt and what I experienced. And there's like, crying and a somatic release. And at the end, and for the rest of that evening, I had what I thought was a headache. But it was weird because it wasn't like a headache that I've ever had. It was like in different places on my head, you know? And when I got home and I was journaling about the process, it dawned on me. I was like, what I just did was I activated the stored energy that individual deposited into me with his fist, and my breathing and everything that we activated was releasing that energy. So it wasn't a headache. It was actually, I mean, it was, but it was actually every place that I had been punched and like hit. I was hit, like multiple times. So that's why the pain felt like very specific, and I could only say it was a headache because it was my head and it ached, but it wasn't a typical like take some Tylenol or whatever, headache. It was just like, it was like someone beat my head in because they had. And that energy that person did stayed there and lived in that tissue until that night that I went there and released it. So I had spoken to my therapist about it, and she had then mentioned EMDR and asked if I had heard about it. And I said no. she knows me. I immediately go and I Google it, and I'm like, it seems hokey, like a little hippie. I said, but I'm willing to try it because I don't want anything left in my body. I said, I don't want to bring any of this into my future. I don't want to bring it to my future children. I don't want to bring it to my future husband. I don't want to bring it to my future anything. Nothing. I said, I want everything that I've gone through and experienced out of my body in its full expression, and so I can move forward, and I don't want to bleed on anyone, right? Like, I want to be so healed that when it is happening, and if I'm about to have a reaction where, you know, an unconscious person might necessarily bleed on someone, I'm gonna go, oh, no, no, no. I know what's happening, and I'm gonna like have a hold on it. You know, I don't want to cause trauma or hurt or pain to other people because I'm unhealed. So we went on the process, and I found it to be extremely, extremely helpful, healing, and it worked for me, right? So much so that we did do some of it for like the breast cancer diagnosis and all of that. So what is EMDR? EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a trauma-informed therapy used to help the brain and nervous system reprocess unresolved experiences. Originally developed for trauma, PTSD, and chronic stress responses. What it actually does is this: trauma isn't just remembered, it's stored in the body and the nervous system. And I didn't need anyone to tell me that. Like, I knew it, I felt it, right? Because something that violent and that extreme, and nothing like I've ever experienced before, right? Like, I've witnessed MMA fights on TV. I've witnessed violence, you know, you live in New York City, but I've never been on the receiving end. And I've actually never even witnessed anything as so violent as what happened to me. So it was just a lot and too much, right? And I knew that it was stored in my body because after the attack, I literally couldn't stop shaking for 24 hours, right? And I didn't get to be safe for like over a week, and even then processing that. So it was just a lot on my system and a lot emotionally and all of that. So I knew for a fact that it was stored in my body, right? Like, I was going to the gym and I would be on the treadmill and I'd have a flashback of that moment, that violence and all of it, to the point where I'd like have to snap out of it. And I remember before any of this happened, watching movies, or like, you know, you would see like, you know, the vets that would come back, you know, from war, and they would have PTSD. And you often think like, oh, they're just making it look like this because it's a movie. So they have to have a visual so you're on the same page and you can be in alignment, and like they have to show you. And that can't be what it's like. But it truly was. Like, I would zone out and be not where I was and be back where that was happening, reliving it. And then I would come back and my heart rate was up, my cortisol, like it was just like too much. And I was like, I'm at the gym right now. This has happened 2 weeks ago, and I don't want this. I don't like this. I don't want to become someone that I'm not. I want to keep my innocence. I want to keep the way I look at the world and the way that I look at people. I want to keep that softness. I don't want to be and become someone that I'm not. So I did this. EMDR uses bilateral stimulation, eye movements, tapping, or sounds. So for me, she had a thing that I stared at, and it, you know, it goes side to side, or I could close my eyes and I could just tap, and we would just go through it. And it helps the brain refile stuck memory so they lose their emotional charge. First, what it is not retelling your trauma over and over. It's not. It's not about forcing healing, because it's not. It's not about reliving the past in a harmful way. It's not. It is emotional, it is fatiguing, it is disorienting at times, and everyone's experience is different, okay? Why it works: the brain already knows how to heal. Trauma interrupts that process, and EMDR helps the brain finish what it couldn't complete at the time. Couldn't complete at the time because I was fighting for my life. Couldn't complete at the time because I was in survival mode trying to figure out how to get this person out of my house to get safe, to be able to begin to do these things and find the resources to do that. So it created a space and gave me a tool to help me manage even situations in the moment. So in the story, I talk about when I went to central booking because this person made false reports. And unfortunately, the way that the system here in New York works is it's like they treat you like a criminal and you do all the things and then they're like, oh, our bad, you're good to go. And it's like, oh, cool. So thanks for the extra fucking trauma, guys. Fuck you. I do truly feel that way. And I did send letters to the DA's office to let them know that. I didn't use fuck you, but I did in a more eloquent way. But while I was there and about to have a pretty big panic attack, I was able to lean in on and just do the self-tapping to bring myself to reality, to calm myself down and to like process what I was feeling in the moment without going off like the mental deep end of like everything that I was literally going through while the system was then also helping this individual further abuse me, right? So it's an extremely powerful tool. I highly recommend it. Is it easy? No. Is it fun? No. But neither is holding on to your trauma and pain and reliving it and or it coming up in moments that should just be pure joy, right? Because you're being stuck and pulled back to a traumatic time in your life or a traumatic experience. So it was worth the work and the going through it. And I highly recommend it for any kind of trauma. It doesn't have to be physical violence. Like I said, I used it for physical violence, and then I also used it, for the moments of breast cancer that the diagnosis that I couldn't get past. And everyone's traumas are different. Everyone is affected by trauma in different ways. There's some traumas that are capital T and some that are lowercase t, but trauma's trauma, right? And PTSD is a real thing, and mental loops and all of that, and anxiety, it can be and is crippling. It is a real thing. So if you are suffering and if you are going through something, please look into this modality and please give it a try with a professional and get the support that you need, because you deserve to live in peace. And I'm able to talk about things that I've been through and that happened, and I'm calm. I don't feel it in my body, thank God. I do joke and say, like, fuck the, Queen's DA's office, because I do truly feel that way, in the sense that we are in, it's 2025 and common sense is not common. And there's just certain things that are just so clear as to what individuals are doing. And the fact that people get power hungry because they're trying to like win an election or whatever it is that they're trying to do, they omit what makes sense and omit common sense and like things that are obvious to chase something down at the expense of not just someone, a victim of a crime, of a heinous crime, right? Like someone that like 1 second more you'd be like investigating a homicide, right? Like, so I just really, really implore anyone that's watching this, if you're on the other side where you are hearing these cases or making, filing these reports, like, use your brain and really understand the intricacies, well, can't speak, that go into these delicate situations, and use your discernment, because sometimes it really is just that obvious, and you don't need to be even smart to figure out and see what's in front of you. Most of the time 1 + 1 = 2, right? So yeah. um I would just, again, really bring this back to EMDR. I'm a huge advocate, and I think you should try it. In my first book, I do mention it in the resource section, in some detail. You don't need to go to my book to do that. You can go on ChatGPT, you can go on Google and just type in EMDR. You can ask your therapist. If your therapist doesn't specialize in it or offer it, there's other, like, people that do. So I leave you with that resource. Thank you.